Hey, I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about my limited understanding of the warrior mind. For the last 2 years, I have been studying martial arts in an attempt to understand how to cultivate this mind. It's been transformative. It is changing how I think. It is training me how to see past illusion. And I'm going to start talking about that because I think it's important. Now, there are much wiser warriors than me out there, and you should also listen to them. But this is where I'm at on the path. And I did it to help my music, and it's also helped me as a person. In my work, I talk a lot about how we've been had or how we're being used by powers much larger than us. I talk about how to rise again from the dead and what kind of personal journey it takes to be able to do that. Go down to the underworld and back again? That's not an easy thing. How do you escape the clutches of Hela in the underworld, in Helheim, right? You must trade your ignorance. It's in your power to do that. You can trade it in. But you have to stop fighting with your neighbor. Because you won't have time. You won't have time to think about this stuff. If you're busy mad at them, busy being mad at them for who they support. We are all a part of the same system. We are all being served in the same way, Republicans and Democrats. Sure, the percentages vary, but we're all a part of the same thing. And it is the powers that be who have convinced us that it's each other that's the problem. Who made the system? It's like when men complain about how women only want them for their money, but neglect to notice that they literally set up the system where, of course, she wants you for your money. You won't let her get paid enough to support herself. You make a lot of things harder for her. You don't accept her as a unique entity from yourself, yet worthy of just as much. It is women who give birth to men. Some of them don't like to hear that. I talk about that too in my work. There's so much that we need to do. There's so much that we all need to change. You have to learn how to think. You have to be able to learn how to really look. Not with the lens of your own prejudices and your mom who you're angry at and your friend who was rude to you yesterday. We need to start thinking about what's really important here, which is that America is being taken over by tyranny, and it's much bigger than a political party. Much bigger than a political party. It is both political parties in America. And it's more than that. They're just a piece of the puzzle. You have to learn how to look. I will do my best to share what I see. And if it resonates for you, hope that you will help me out, support me, recommend me places, share my videos, introduce me to people who you think I should meet. Let's talk about solutions. Solutions that are not being talked about right now. Not at all. We have to learn how to forgive each other. And even more importantly, we have to learn how to forgive ourselves. America, you have never been able to heal from the wound you gave yourself when you harmed our Native American brothers and sisters. You haven't been able to heal from that self-inflicted wound because you will not look at the fact that it exists. And it will exist until you tend to it. And for us to tend to it, we must recognize the human suffering that happened in order to make way for the life that we have. And the fact that our government did it to them. What, they became the United States of America for everyone except the Native Americans? That's insane, but that's what happened. And we have paid a lot of consequences for not integrating them into our society as we should have. And we're seeing the repercussions of it now. Don't you think we could have used their deep wisdom, their traditions that have been passed down for thousands and thousands of years, their spiritual heritage that helps them connect to the divine? Don't you think that could have had a really positive impact in our government? But rather, because they weren't Christians, all of that was completely erased from the face of this country as much as possible. We cut off our own foot, and a lot more than that, really. And most importantly, what it brings to mind me that I want to leave you with is, I saw this interview that Toni Morrison did once, the great African-American writer and poet. I think she won a Nobel Prize. Amazing. And she was speaking to this reporter, and the reporter said, well, of course, I paraphrase, Black people have been obviously harmed the most by racism in America. And Toni looks at the camera and she goes, you sure about that? I would say that the one who's doing the wounding is the most wounded one by the actions that they have taken. What happens when one person hurts another through sin of racism? Every action causes an equal and opposite reaction. And that is true in the spiritual world as well. We have been wounded in America, and its racist roots go all the way back to the start. We cannot. What's another way of putting this? Until we accept the consequences of being slavers, who continue to benefit from the system which they set up. We have to shut the plantations down. We have to. All of our plantations are not shut down. I'm talking about in our communities, I'm talking at the government level, and I'm talking on the world level. What does it mean to enslave someone, and how do you know if your government is starting to enslave you? I think that's an important question for us to ask. I might suggest some thoughts like, what is a slave? What are the characteristics of being a slave? Have I examined what is going on in our culture against the schema of the question, what does it mean to be a slave? And to work through that little questionnaire till you come to the correct answer at the end. I'm not here to give you answers, but these questions are not being asked. Not enough, not nearly enough. I haven't really heard them be asked very much, I'll tell you that. And those of you who know me know I'm a really deep person, and I don't like having conversations that aren't deep. Just not into it. So I think about stuff really deeply. So what is coming is not good. Or at minimum, at the time, we won't think it's good. But here's where I want to give you my own little version of an ancient proverb. I believe it's Chinese, I think. Sorry if it's not. Once upon a time, there was an old farmer. And the farmer had a horse that was very expensive and he was quite proud of. But one day, the horse broke its leg and had to be put down. It was a great loss to the farmer, and all of the neighbors said, oh, I'm so sorry. That's awful. And he says, maybe. So some time passes, and the man eventually acquires another horse. But to his great joy, he discovered that she was pregnant, and the sellers didn't know. So he acquired 2 horses for the price of 1. And the neighbors rejoiced, and they said, oh, I'm so happy for you after what happened to your horse. That's so great. Aren't you so happy? Isn't this a good thing? For they were surprised that he did not jump up and down with joy. But instead he said, perhaps it's a good thing. See? But alas, there was a call from the military for a draft. And because the man's son had a horse to ride, now that he had an extra, he was conscripted. And all the neighbors said, oh, to take a horse, but also the son, that truly is a great loss. And the man said, perhaps. The next morning came, and the young man rose to spring from his bed, but twisted his ankle very badly, and thus was not able to ride for the conscription, and was dismissed from the draft. The neighbors rejoiced and asked, aren't you so happy? Isn't this good? And he said, perhaps. Then one day, fire came from the heavens in late August, as his wheat fields lay ripe for the taking. And the fire from heaven burnt every living thing in the field and ate up the man's next year of supply. The neighbors bewailed and said, "Oh, what will you do? How can you recover from this? This is a terrible thing. What if you can't recover? Won't that be bad?" And the man said, "Perhaps." Thanks for listening.